Do you wanna get groovy?
Classique 21.
Classic 21.
Écoutez l'original.
Hi. Well, amazing piece of work, this compilation. Put together, you did an incredible range of music. Were you yourself surprised when you realized that? Because I guess you don't listen to your own material and Genesis material all
Never.
the time. So were you surprised by that?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard it yet as a body of work, but
No. But I think that's well, if you say surprised, well, we surprised. I think the idea is that it will surprise a few people when they think that all of that stuff just has come out of one band. I think that's one of the sort of the reasons behind doing it was to. Mike has been saying, and it's probably true, that the documentary came first. But very hot on its heels was the idea of doing a compilation that put all the kind of group work together, solo works as well, so that people would see that they don't associate maybe Peter with Genesis or all kinds of. It's a lot of information.
Was it hard to pick up the songs because you have a so huge catalog of songs?
not really. I mean, it was, I think Tony Banks, who's the keeper of the keys, I call him, started with the rough outline. It's fairly easy, the obvious choices, and obviously the solo tracks we chose ourselves, but there was no real, it was like a bit like if that long song's in and those two can't be, it's more like a sort of option to choose the options you wanted, really. But it's a strong body of work because I think, as Phil said, people don't quite realise that it all came from this one band, And when you see a sort of a Biko alongside In the Air, alongside Invisible Touch, or alongside Living Years, you kind of go, this is a huge range of songwriting and some great songs there.
Mm-hmm. In the 70s, Genesis was not at all a single-oriented band. You were, of course, an album band. Is that why you choose to put early material? Because maybe some people don't really know about those long songs.
Well, I think it's the first time Supper's Ready been on, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the idea was to surprise as many people with the differences of, the band that did this also did that, and it doesn't really matter probably to anybody but us, but I just think that a lot of people probably don't put certain things together. They don't even know that I play the drums. Some people who come to see my show used to say, "What's the second drum kit for?" Well, you play drums. It's like the Bill Wyman thing. I remember with the Stones. When he said that someone come up to him and said, "Oh, I go way back. How long have you been a Stones fan?" And the guy said, "Well, I've been a Stones fan for ages. Miss You, Emotional Rescue. And forgetting there was 30 years before that, I sometimes feel like we're in the same boat with that.
Is everybody in the band was fine with the project and the collection of songs, of course?
Yeah, very much so. I think it came at a nice time too. I think I think in a way, as the point is that the TV thing came first. I mean, had that not happened, I'm sure we wouldn't have done the CD. It kind of makes sense to the whole thing, and it's nice. We sat together, the five of us, for a whole day chatting about it. And it's just nice, sort of having the memories of what happened, in a sense.
Did you discover stuff that you didn't really know about solo material from other member of the band?
I think we've always kept a pretty, good ear to the ground with regard to each other's solo things. So I don't know if it was as much a surprise, but the five of us in the same room was nice. That was something that has not happened. Well, actually, the last time it happened was 10 years ago when we actually, five of us sat in a room in Glasgow.
Oh, no, yeah, of course, yeah.
To discuss whether we were going to do a reunion tour or not. And Peter left with it still out, without still saying no or yes. And so when he left and Steve left, we just said, how about doing the three of us? And and we did that, and that's what was the 2007 tour. But other than that, you know, and meeting at Heathrow once.
For a photograph, yeah. Yeah.
For a photograph. We hadn't really sat down and talked as a five of us, you know, so that was kind of good fun.
Last April, I think Peter talked to the press about the possible reunion, but he was not sure. So
I didn't hear that one.
No,
Yeah.
I just read an article where maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this will either give him a bit of incentive,
Or completely
completely, you know, because we had lots of going backwards and forwards about covers and titles, and it was all good-natured. There, you know, no one threatened to storm out of the room, but it did remind us all what it was like to be in a five-piece band again. But you know, it had its nice side. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's all, to me, it's, if Peter was to give the green light, it's, you know, I can't play the drums anymore like I used to. So it kind of, I don't believe it can happen. You know, and I don't want to go out there with another drummer and have two singers. You know, I mean, the idea is to do Genesis as it was. So I think it's just something that people will continue to talk about until one of us has popped off, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, from the late 70s, of course, the band evolved a complete different kind of band, probably more pop-oriented band. Were you the two responsible for that?
Yes, it's because he's here, isn't it? Because if I'm here, it would be mine. Now
I'm getting blamed, yeah.
You're getting blamed with it as well.
I don't know, it's not really, it's the perception, the public see it that way. I don't quite buy it in the same way. I think my theory is that what happened is that, yeah, we did less long songs. We always did a long song per album, 50 minutes, you know, but what happened was that we had single success and TV came in. So suddenly MTV came in. So suddenly if you had a hit single, you were on every single restaurant, television, bar, gym. So the hit singles sort of overshadowed the album sometimes. Not live, but the way the public saw it in a sense. So we changed, but I don't feel we changed that much.
Frankly, I think if you had the five guys from 1970 sitting in front of you now, everybody wanted to have a hit single. You know, it was everybody wanted to have a hit single. I mean, Genesis to Revelation is all about the guys, you know,
Yeah.
wanting a hit single. I mean, it wasn't a dirty word in those days. I mean,
That's how it started, you know. The Who, the Small Faces, the Beatles, great songs. They were hit singles. It wasn't a bad word, hit singles, you know.
yeah,
And we always liked them.
And it's all about the songs, you know. I mean, Supper's Ready is really, you know, 5 or 6 short songs thrown together, you know. And I know that Belgium was always, you know, because they were so close to the beginning of Genesis, and I think probably Belgium feels this probably maybe more than anybody else. But I know that we never sat down and said, right, let's now, you know, we know how to do it. Let's do this again. Let's do this again. You know, it just isn't like that. There are certain pieces of music as you're writing that just seem right at that kind of length, you know. And we were a band of songwriters. We didn't, you know, have any other ambitions as just to write better songs. So if those songs were good in the 4 minute, 5 minute format, or you know, that was it. That's how we left it. And if it was a song that kind of lended itself to being extended, then that was good too. And we never felt we were one or the other.
But when you first came out in the early 70s, bands like Led Zeppelin, of course you, Pink Floyd, band like that, they weren't released singles.
No.
Well, also the thing was, in those days, there was a weird divide. You know, the singles were like very poppy things.
Hmm.
After the Beatles, that sort of, you know, Mud, Piccadilly Witch, those sort of bands. You know, you probably don't know about them, but
Victor dodgy too there.
yeah, but that's the whole point. It was very lightweight. You know what I mean? The Beatles and Who were great early singles, you know, and then this sort of rather schmaltzy sort of poppy thing came in. So the albums, bands, and singles bands. So you didn't really try singles market. But also the other thing, I think, had the band still had we been a five-piece now, and not killed each other, I think we wouldn't be that far away. We'd have changed too, you know. Peter changed. You know, you move on. You don't stay in the same place.
You just mentioned Belgium. Of course, it was one of the first countries who react positively on.
It's our first overseas trip.
Yeah. Did you remember that period?
I do. I remember the
Oh,
boat.
yeah.
I remember the
Shawa.
Black Cat. What's it called? The club.
It was
Yeah.
La Ferme V, I
Fair
think.
enough, yes.
What was that?
La Ferme V.
Oui.
Firm.
First
What I do
thing,
remember
yeah,
is
first
that
thing.
to get from the dressing room to the stage, you had to walk through the crowd. You know, carrying your guitars and your drumsticks. There was no sort of way on.
Yeah, there's some great photographs from that era. But, you know, the stage made on beer crates.
40 years after that period, are you still, I don't know, what is your regard on those huge songs? What do you think about that now?
The long song.
The long songs, yeah.
Well, to be honest, I mean, having done the documentary, and I did a book beforehand, so I've listened a lot to our old stuff, because normally I don't listen to any of our stuff, really. And none of us do. But in doing it, I've heard it a bit more, and I think Summer's Ready comes across as something pretty special. That really did work. And I quite enjoy it. Something doesn't work, you know, I quite enjoy the process.
Just question, Phil, about your health. How are you?
Medical section.
Medical
No, but when I met you in Geneva 4 years ago, you explained that you had to tape the drumsticks.
What to do going back, yeah. Yeah, I mean, nothing's really changed, you know. I mean, nothing's changed. Long story short, nothing's changed. It's only this, you know. I mean, when one says health, one sort of thinks of other things, I suppose. But really, it's a physical thing. Just can't play the drums like I used to, and so that kind of, I could go out there and pretend and try to do a good, but no, if I can't do it the same as I used to do it, then I'd rather not do it.
But you announced your retirement in 2011.
Four. Actually 4. People didn't listen. I mean, the first Final Farewell tour was 2004. And then we did the Genesis reunion tour.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that, you know, because we hadn't said goodbye properly. But 2004, that's when I actually, I was going to stop work and be at home to bring the kids. Matthew was just born, and I was going to do that. But yeah, you know, a couple of years ago, I mean, it's certain. If I'm talking to someone in conversation and they say, "Do you fancy doing that, or do you miss that?" Or, you know, you might get an occasional. Well, occasionally I do think about it. You know, in this instance, my kids were talking to me about going back on the road, and it's always a possibility, as long as I'm breathing, that something will happen. You know. But I weigh up all the possibilities and what I'd like to do, what I should do, and that's kind of where we're at. You know, I did 4 shows with the Going Back. Well, no, 6, 7 shows with Going Back. They weren't particularly pleasurable. I mean, the idea was great with the Motown people, but you know, I don't know. I don't know.
What about you? Do you have projects on your own?
Yeah, I kind of restarted the Mechanics about 2 or 3 years ago. Wrote a couple of songs and got Andrew Roachford involved, who's a lovely, great R&B voice, and Tim Howard, the rock voice. We always had 2 singers. I've done a few shows around Europe, and I'm going to come here actually to America next year just to try it out. I do enjoy it. I mean, the Mechanics never played live, hardly ever. A couple of tours over here, and so it's quite nice to take the songs and play them live. I mean, they're good live songs, and everyone involved is sort of part-timers, so they do other things. So we do it when it kind of works. It's quite fun.
Mm-hmm. Young people are rediscovering 70s music more than ever. Probably bands like you, especially the prog rock, the so-called prog rock movement. Do you realize that? No?
Not really, no.
I mean, there's been, 80s, kind of looking back at the 80s, but 70s, no, this had escaped me.
Bands like Led Zeppelin, Genesis, stuff like that. It's incredible. It's coming.
Well, some great music from that.
Yeah. But what is your favorite period in music? Was it the 60s? That's what you told me. I think. Last time we met.
As a listener, that was the 60s. Yeah, there's not much about the 70s I like, apart from, you mentioned Zeppelin, but. Yeah, 60s for me. But there's probably
it's nostalgia. You hear those songs, right?
Yeah.
I hear the Kinks song, something, and it takes you right back to that. When you're young, that first musical 5 years, when you hear what you like, we were young at an incredibly popular, great time. You know what I mean? So we're in a popular, with the Beatles and all that stuff going on, great music was coming out. And so whether it's the music or whether it's just nostalgia, it's a bit of both, I think. And I hear those songs now, it takes me right back to that time.
Yeah, I mean, even the 60s, you're talking about the cream of it, the good stuff, because there's an awful lot of rubbish as well in the 60s.
You were more into
the cream
rhythm and blues also?
Yeah, rhythm and blues and...
there was just so much. I mean,
yeah.
The Who, the Kinks, the Small
Yardbirds.
Faces, yeah. Cream, I mean, it's just great stuff. So yeah, but
What kind of stuff do you listen to today? Do you buy records or download music or?
I just steal it all. No, I don't. I don't listen a lot. I listen in the car a bit. My younger boy Harry is a sort of writer-producer, and he often runs things by me. I mean, there's nice stuff. I mean, I hear nice stuff out there. I like Ed Sheeran. I think he's great. I think England's having quite a nice time at the moment with writing. There's some good writers in again. The Adele thing was a great moment when just, a voice and good songs and piano, the biggest album for a long time. So I sort of, there's stuff out there, but I don't listen an awful lot.